KANU ni chama ambacho kimezoea kufitini wengine. DP ni chama cha nchi nzima na kila mtu anajua. Kuna staajabu kwani unazidi kusema mambo kama hayo.
Kuna swala moja ambalo linazungumzwa kuhusiana na nafasi yako katika kugombea nafasi hii. Wanasema kwamba wewe umeingia katika nafasi hii baada ya kwamba wengine wamegombania nafasi ya demokrasia.
Nani wanasema hiyo? Ni wale ambao hawataki ukweli au ni wewe mwenyewe?
Mimi bali kinachoelezwa ndio hicho kwamba
kinaelezwa na nani? Hujasikia wananchi hawa wote wakikueleza hivyo. Kwa hivyo fitina yako haifai. Sijui umeitoa wapi. Chaguzi tena umekwisha.
Kuna wengine wanasema, wanauliza atasimama tena. Kwa nini hatasimama tena? Si miaka ya mtu bunge ni 10. Ni 10. Basi yeye agali kijana. Mimi na watoto wangu hatuoni yeye ni mzee. Hatuoni tofauti. Vile alivyokuwa miaka 10 iliyopita, ako vile tu alivyokuwa. Kwa hivyo wale vijana wanasema watasimama, mutatulia. Watagoja miaka ingine 20. Lazima waelimike kabisa na wakomee kisiasa. Na wajue kuongea. Sio kutukana wazee na wazazi huku na huku.
Right there, museum and hacking back into history. That was the First Lady Lucy Kibaki and of course also President Mwai Kibaki. Before then, all the campaign trail. We have this picture from the archives as well. And I wanted to just see if Okongo Mogine may recognize this face.
Joseph Martin Shikuku.
Joseph Martin, spot on.
Yes.
Can you remember the year that he was riding a bike in Nairobi? This is in the CBD.
Can't remember the year, but I can see that's Martin Shikuku.
Which street is this in Nairobi? If my director may just put down the strap so that we can see the full picture there. Yes. And you can see this was 1969.
Wow.
This is how Nairobi was looking in 1969. This is Martin Shikuku riding his bicycle in town.
And the street?
And this street, I can't even identify which street is this myself. But we can see Koda, there is Rajwanis there. There's Samagar there. I can't identify this particular street which it was then. And then we have also Martin Shikuku here. In 1971, he was addressing the Regea Progressive Party. Can you remember there was a Regea Progressive Party in 1971? Now this was in Kaloleni Hall. And here is Martin Shikuku, just remembering him. In this month of August, we are showcasing leaders who died in the month of August, going through the stream of time as well. This is from our archives. Martin Shikuku was an astute also good debater in Parliament. Yes. He was not merely marked that we've seen the Mzalendo has come up with a list of people who don't speak in Parliament. And Martin Shikuku will have not been that person. Yeah. So for the people who never make any contribution in-house, but we see them making broadside declarations as well on the streets as well.
You know, he had really mastered standing orders. You know Dibali in that Parliament. If you have not mastered standing orders, at times even the shout from the speaker, order, order. You are standing on which standing order? Can make you even hide under the table. So we should empathize with those who have never.
Miguel has been talking about put the question that has becoming put the question. There is no debate. Put the question. Put the question.
But I mean, really, we need to pay tribute to this fallen hero, Joseph Martin Shikuku. You know, these are guys who served during the single party era, where at times opening your mouth to tell the government the truth almost meant giving away your freedom. But this was a bold, courageous man with average education. Shikuku didn't have a degree, but he could stand, address the House for 1 hour without making any reference to notes. And you know, those days we had speakers. Of course, even today we have good speakers. But we had speakers who really allowed debate to flow in the House. Not what we get nowadays, where at times you want to rise to speak on something, then the person on the chair tells you have 2 minutes to air your point across. These guys at the quality time, you could take the floor, him and the late George Anyona, you could take the floor and the country would be listening at night. They used to have a program called Leo Katika Bunge. Leo Katika Bunge. I really miss those old days, because at times, once in a while, you see self-censorship from the person on the chair, where someone feels a bit uncomfortable if you want to make a criticism of the government of the day. But we have two sides of the house. There is the government side, or the majority side, and the minority side. So the minority are there to pinpoint, where the government has failed to live to expectations of Kenyans. And that side should be. God rest the soul of that great man,
Martin Shikuku. Right.
In eternal peace.
And talking of debates as well, you, Owen Baya, as the Deputy Majority Leader, we have the Speaker who has been complaining, especially for the committee, where the members are no-show, and is decrying how there's lethargy and laziness within the committee meetings as well. As maybe you can clarify what is really happening, and this is a question that we are always asking: how active are our members of parliament? Actually, they are not. They are not in the committees. They are not on the floor of the house to have a robust debate. We've had even the speaker himself having to adjourn some of his sessions because of no quorum.
We have a problem in Kenya in terms of representation. And we have a problem both at the committee levels in Parliament.
What is the problem?
I'm coming to that. Okay. Because a lot of committees today, you see a committee has 14 members. But for every committee meeting they have, only 5 people attend. 5. You have to actually wait for a long time to raise quorum. Okay. And then you will have a chairperson who may not even appear for the committee meeting. And these are issues that my leader of majority has even spoken in Parliament about it. If we had all chairmen of committees and vice chairs of committees in the House every time, we would not ring the quorum bell. We would not ring the quorum bell. But every time the speaker sits, we ring the quorum bell, and the whips have to go out there and look for members to bring them to the chamber. That is a problem. So what is the problem? I think it goes back to parties and how they mobilize members, because the responsibility to have members in the chamber lies squarely on the whips and on the parties.
Thank you.
Yes, the parties. So we have a problem. Parties need to now come down and mobilize their members to be in the chamber, because of there's this debate, there's this motion, there's this house business that we must take care of, and therefore mobilize members to be there. But I also want to tell my brothers in Azimio, I think they have lost interest in being leaders. Because every time, and I want you to watch today.
I just want to wrap up on this session of a museum, so that at least we can we can actually join that particular conversation on the other side of the museum. Yes, that is museum. Just of course hacking back into history, looking at Martin Shikuku and the late President Mwai Kibaki. But right now we want to bring the soapbox so that we can get the tone and tenor of the political scenario and the landscape.
We challenge the president's unconstitutional exercise of state authority in the creation of appointments of the appointment of Musalia Mudavadi as the Prime Secretary, whose function, as spelled out in the Executive Order Number 1, 2023, alters the basic structure of the Constitution contrary to law. We further challenge the President's cabinet-level appointments of Harriet Chigai as Cabinet Secretary, President's Women's Rights Advisor, and Monica Kathima Juma as cabinet secretary president's national security advisor. These positions are not contemplated in the constitution, therefore are unlawful, illegal, and unconstitutional. We in fact challenge the entire constitution of the Compositional Cabinet of Republic of Kenya for failing to comply with the constitutional dictates on gender balance, inclusion of persons with disability, and the youth.
We are saying that we are not going to go outside the constitution. We are not going to suspend the constitution to start talking about elections of 2022. According to our understanding, the matter of election was dispensed with. They appealed at the Supreme Court. Supreme Court already pronounced itself on the matter, and that is water down the bridge. Let us look at how we're going to conduct the subsequent elections so that people can learn to accept defeat. We've put a number of suggestions on how we can have an all-inclusive approach after elections. We are proposing that we set up the office of the leader of opposition so that in case somebody loses in an election, still has got a fallback position to have the office of the leader of opposition so that we can have a united Kenya moving forward. So we want to call upon our brothers from the Azimio side. Let us focus on our future. Let us focus on building Kenya moving forward. Let us not look behind. We shall be like the proverbial wife to in the Bible, Lot's wife in the Bible, who was told to look in front, and when she looked back, she froze into a pillar of salt. Let us look beyond 2022. Let us work together and let us move forward.
Both sides had their set of agendas, and it's important they get synchronized. And that we leave to the technical team to be able to provide the way forward. Once that is agreed, I think we'll be on our way.
We have a secretariat that, as we agreed last week, myself and the leader of minority in the National Assembly were to engage with both speakers of the House. We have engaged with them, and they have been gracious enough to grant us a secretariat that will be helping us in putting together whatever we need throughout this engagement. All right, and of course, that is just what was happening yesterday with the day one of the bipartisan talks. And the issue that is also coming to hand as well is that these talks, they need to be predicated on law. We can just begin there. First of all, with Senior Counsel Okongo Morgan, you're part of these conversations. And I don't know if this will be conflict of interest, as it were. But since it's not even...
I'm happy that you
in the legal framework.
You have already forewarned yourself. Because,
yes.
Manzo here will tell you that there are matters you consider sub judice.
Sub judice. But even if it's sub judice, under what legal framework?
There are matters, there are matters even in the African tradition, you say there are matters you don't want to bewitch, you know. And all I can say is I think you have seen that there has been a very good spirit from both sides, the two negotiating teams, which is good for the country. You have seen the pronouncements of the two leaders, the Azimio One Kenya coalition team, headed by Kalonzo Musyoka, and then the UDA team, led by Kimani
Kenya Kwanza team.
Kenya Kwanza, sorry. The Kenya Kwanza. Kenya Kwanza. My apologies, Mheshimiwa.
You can't let that fly.
No. Yeah, so I think all I can say is I don't want to poison or jeopardize the good spirit that I've seen in these initial days of the talks. I think let's encourage my 9 colleagues who are involved to put the interests of the country first. I echo the words of what Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka said and Kimani Chungwa, that this is all about putting the interest of our beloved country first, more than anything else. We are in these talks because we love our country. We want us to remain one nation. If Kenya declared war today, I and Honorable Baya must, if we are called upon, must carry weapons and fight to defend the borders of this country. So this is our country, all of us. We are brothers and sisters. We can differ on political ideologies, but that does not make us enemies at all. We remain one people who have allegiance to one country, which is Kenya, and it is upon us. We have a duty to make it better than we found it. We also want Honorable Manzo, 40 years down the line, to have our photos like what I've seen on Martin Shikuku on a positive note. So my prayer is that the talks will end on a good note, that something comes out of it, so that we can calm the political temperatures and we continue living as brothers and sisters.
Right.
I think that's the aspirations of all Kenyans.
So in the meantime, we have Azimio leader saying that, we're changing our strategy a bit. So you're calling upon the will-be demonstrators to actually stay indoors. So this, after this talks collapses, or what is up his collective sleeves, and what does it mean to stay indoors?
Well, as Omugani has said...
because you are on house arrest.
Yeah.
So you want to arrest yourself again.
and the most unfortunate thing, and even the withdrawal of security of some of the leaders, knowing that politics is very competitive, and some competitors in politics will actually take in an opportunity when you have no security to eliminate you, so that there will be a by-election. So that's why you saw the cartoon of hardliners. They are tied. You see, we have only one country, and as Owen Bayer said, we all want to post a good image, to the rest of the world. And I'll tell you, there was one unfortunate incident where there were very many tourists planning to come to Kenya, and they had booked hotels in Kenya from Nairobi to Mombasa, and they were on a private plane. They had hired a plane to come to Kenya, but when they got the message that there is a little bit of could be insecurity or this running battles, they cancelled the hotel bookings and flew to Seychelles. So we don't want. I'm sure the government of Kenya doesn't want to lose revenue also, and it goes on how you balance this. Really, how do you handle Kenyans when they protest? We have a law. You are saying you want the talks to be anchored in the law. We have a law, but unfortunately, we have bad will from some of the leaders in Kenya Kwanza. They think Kenya only belongs to them, and as in isolation of other people. This was a highly contested election where the results are highly doubtful, and the constitution requires the president, whoever now becomes president, to bring the country together. Is a bigger role, and you see, Kenyans are reasonable. They will watch you as a president and you as a ruling party, and no one can be in power forever. We will all be out of power at some point, and we will also be in power at some point. So the way Kenyans treat each other, I think we also need to think about it here. We have one nation. We want this nation to succeed. We want everybody in this nation to be happy and to be able to prosper, to be able to do their business. But some of the government policies, unfortunately, are unconstitutional. And some of the actions which have been done are unconstitutional. You want a judiciary, and that's why I'm calling for, to make sure that every single death is explained and it is settled. Unfortunately, it has happened. You need inquest, public inquiries. Ordinarily, they are set up by judiciary upon application by councils of the aggrieved parties. But you have to have a cooperative judiciary. You have to have a judiciary willing, to serve the people. You have a police inspector general who has a constitution to follow, who has a law to follow. But the moment they leave their independence and start acting politically against their opponents from instructions they have also, then that's what pollutes the atmosphere in the country. So I believe so far there is goodwill, and this bipartisan talks can result into resolving some of these issues. If when you go to demonstrate peacefully, and I'm sure the people in Eldoret this morning will demonstrate peacefully, and I believe if that demonstration was in another part of the country or was perceived to be originating from another political party other than Kenya Kwanza, the police will go on to shoot these people dead. or even use excessive force. I'm believing, and I really want to believe there can be peaceful demonstrations at that corner. It happened in Machakos.
Thank you.
And it should happen in Eldoret today.
Thank you.
The people should be allowed to express their views. So I believe we all want to build our nation, and it is a high time we all follow the constitution and the law and respected each other. And I believe we'll have a great nation.
All right. So we had the BBI and we had the handshake that was not predicated under any law. What are some of the challenges, if you may just hark back to the handshake and where we're coming at, because now you're seeking also, all the bipartisan team is seeking to have a legislative framework around these talks. They need to be predicated on law. So was also what we had with the handshake an illegality, maybe, or to try and just flip on the other side of it?
Dibal, there's nothing illegal about having talks and dialogue in a country. And people can talk, even the handshake and all the other things that were there are not anchored in law, but it did not prevent government and opposition coming together to work together. But you see, we have a history in this country. I think it started with the IPPG. When the IPPG talks started, I think that was anchored into law so that it gave a legal framework for the people talking to have something that is a product that can come to Parliament. Two, we had the 2007 elections. We had an accord, the National Accord, that was also anchored in law, and it worked within that framework. These talks that are currently ongoing, probably the wisdom of the co-chairs, probably they think we need to anchor them into law so that the product of these negotiations, these talks, can actually come to Parliament and recognize as something that Parliament can discuss. And that's why I am sure as they are framing, I think Okongo Mungeni will bear me witness that they have appointed teams, and the teams are framing the issues, and then from the issue, I think a law will ensue, and this law will be brought to Parliament. The import of that is that whatever is being done, it has some legal backing and therefore can come to Parliament. The product can come to Parliament for adoption or rejection, whichever way it goes. But going back to those bipartisan talks, I want to echo the sentiments of my leader, my majority leader, that Kenya is bigger than all of us. And when it comes to an opportunity to discuss issues that concern Kenya and to take Kenya to the next level, all of us should participate. And that is why, in that spirit, I think the president sanctioned that let's talk. Mm-hmm. If the talks will bring down the violence, then let's talk. If talks will bring the country together, then let's talk. But we also want to draw the line on the issues that we must talk about. And that is where we differ. Mm-hmm. When we try to draw the line. Why do we want to start talking about 2002 elections? People should be preparing for 2007. I'm sure Mheshimiwa Dan here is not discussing 2002 with his opponents at home, mm-hmm. but he is discussing with his supporters on how to win 2027. I think we need to move forward. We are stuck in a jam. You know, it's like we're in a traffic jam that is not moving as a country. You know, we in my culture, we have a dance mm-hmm. called Mshago. I think it's called Mshago, that mm-hmm. dance, where you move 2 steps ahead mm-hmm. and 3 steps backwards. Mm-hmm. 2 steps ahead, 3 steps backwards. We have that kind of dance. And that is where, as a country, we have been engaged in a dance that is not moving forward. The country is not moving forward because of this. Every time we have an election, we must always have issues. I watched a show yesterday on KTN. It's called Real. Mm-hmm. It's a late night. I don't know why they say it's for adults only, that show that hosted by
the watershed moment or the watershed hour.
Yes, that show. And I never watched it, but I watched it yesterday. But there's one person there. I think he's the CEO of the managing director of managing editor of the Standard. It's called Otieno or something, Charles mm-hmm. Otieno. And I watched. It was a very interesting show. I took my time and listened. And, he said, one of the participants, they said, you see, this country is stuck It's not moving forward. And there's a lady, doctor, someone who said, you see, I'm a businesswoman, but every time there is an election, I lose a lot on my business and I start again. By the time I think I am catching up and becoming better in business, there's an election. So the campaign period after the campaign, the election, after the election problems, my business comes back again. I think it's the lady who said Samantha Bridal. And yes, and she said that. So it was a very educative show that KTN hosted yesterday. And I looked at it and said, yes, that is actually our problem. We move 2 steps ahead as a country, then we move 3 steps behind as a country in terms of when do we want to get to the League of the Nations where we can compare to the big guys. Kenya has great potential, but politics has been muzzling that potential, and we need to work on our politics. Secondly, I want to concur, and I don't want to concur with him, but I want to tell him this. The demonstration in Eldoret is well planned. The demonstrators probably will be there. They have notified the police. They told the police this is the route that we will use. They have told the police we want you to do this and this for us. They have sat down and agreed, and they will not be carrying stones or weapons or anything. They'll be unarmed and peaceful. And the police will escort them to their destination and where they want to present their memoranda. Unlike the demonstrations that Dan Manzo and his colleagues organize. You know, they organize not demonstration, but they organize chaos. They organize riots, not demonstrations.
Thank you.
They want to go out there not to picket, but to destroy property. And that is where we have a problem. And I want to say this on this show. Debal, I have a bill in Parliament to introduce body cams for body cameras for every police officer in this country, so that this back and forth and information that is not be avoided. And my bill, I made a presentation at budget. I made a presentation at the committee, and probably the next 2, when we open Parliament, it will come to the floor of the House. Essentially, this bill is meant to forestall these issues that we have where every police wears a body cam. What the police officer does is recorded, and what the other person that the police is interacting with is also recorded, such that the corruption that bedevils us on the roads will stop. If a police goes out there to create crime, it will be recorded, and it will be a crime not to wear a body cam as you go out on duty. And this body cam is actually connected to the station, and it is recorded. So every time that you die, the camera records, but also there's a backup recording in the office, so that these issues where Azimio says this things has happened, where Kenya Kwanza say this things has happened, the IG says, you know, this kind of things that they say, it will be just refer to the body cameras.
What's the name of that draft bill?
It's the I'm doing an amendment to the police service that act.
Police Service Act.
Yes,
the Police Act.
Amendment the Police Service Act.
Police Act.
Yes, to ensure that we put there that every police officer on duty must wear a body cam.
Okay.
A body camera.
There's
so that all these things, the country can move forward. You know.
So how will be a country of surveillance? Because we also looking at the Daily Nation,
yes.
We have, they're saying 2 tribes got nearly 60% of KRA slots.
Yes.
And these KRA slots, if you may remember, we had the government trying to clamp down on the corruption that is happening within KRA.
Yes.
And they say they're going to get they're calling them the spies.
Yes.
Who will wear the body cams, just like you are suggesting the police they should be wearing the body cams.
Yes, yes.
So, do you think in any way this will try and avert the corruption that is there?
It will. You know, one of the problems that we have with this country and why corruption...
Because we can always have people gaming the system and telling us, oh, yeah, you know, it's been hacked.
No,
oh, you know, it is system failure.
The cameras are disabled.
All the cameras are disabled and dysfunctional.
You know, Dubal, you're even going very
because,
far.
Yeah.
You saw the way the people who are trying to picket, you know, exercising their rights under Article 37, were arrested.
Yes.
They were not arrested by uniformed police officers.
Yes.
In fact, my worry is, how do you draw the line between a thug and a police officer?
Yes.
Because you saw, I saw a classic case of a police officer literally abducting you know, grabbed somebody. That's an abduction, you know. Grabbed somebody and disappeared with that person, and you'll never know whether this is a police officer, whether this is a Mungiki. So it's all about leadership. You know, if the president wants us to look civil, to be in that league of civilized nations, we can do it if it starts from the leadership, making a pronouncement. You know, Dibali, if you want to arrest somebody, you talk to the MPs, Honorable Tom Olwoj, the MP for Madare. He will tell you that the people who arrested him were in civilian clothes. When they pick you, you have no idea whether you have been picked by police officers or by carjackers or by terrorists.
Then you are kept incommunicado.
Then
the constitutional
they
period.
deny you the most basic needs.
But you see, City Council is being very economical with troops. Because we have the police force, we have the DCI. Even in the United States today, the police will wear a uniform, but FBI and CIA don't wear a uniform. Just like here in Kenya,
but
the DCI,
who is deployed to actually go and
arresting officer? Please, you know, we can even.
So are we saying the DCI were actually on the ground during demonstrations?
First of all, they must identify themselves.
Yes.
You know, inform you.
You look at all these cases, even the people who killed George Floyd,
yes,
they were uniformed police officers with the numbers there.
Yes.
And that's what we expect. I mean, why are you hiding the identity of a police officer who is coming to arrest me or Mans or even Dibal? God forbid. Because you are a law enforcement officer, yes, you are invoking the law.
Yes.
You're not
so
acting
you must
illegally.
Use the law yourself.
So apply the law to arrest me. I should be able to know. I should have a right to inform my family. I've been arrested, been taken to this police station. You book me in Nairobi. We do this in a civilized manner. And then you're not law unto yourself. The next thing you should do is to present me to a court of law. If I have a medical condition, you must allow me to get medicine. My family should have contact with me. I should have contact with the lawyer. These things are in the law. So the first thing, even Mheshimiwa, I applaud you that that proposed law is good, it's progressive.
Yes.
But before we reach there, we need to relook at the culture that we are building in this country. First of all, make the police to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Don't turn this country into a terrorist kind of nation.
But Owen Baya as well, if I may just chime in and ask you, because we have the former CJ, David Maraga, working on the task force, to try and reform the police, right? Do you think maybe also you're going ahead of yourself with this particular bill? Why can't you wait? Maybe that will be part of Maraga's one silent point that he will raise, that we need body cams.
I'm a lawmaker. I'm not just an MP that goes to Parliament to sit there. I look at the gaps in law and try to fulfill them by using my mandate to make law. And whether Maraga will bring that suggestion or not, I have a responsibility. And I'll tell you how this thing came to my mind. One day I was in Makupa Causeway, and I had an altercation with a police officer. A very stupid thing. You know, this police officer came on me and was harassing me over something that, then he started accusing me that I was driving while using my mobile phone. I didn't even have a mobile phone. But he said, now when the things were thick, he said, no, this guy must be arrested because he is using his mobile phone while driving. Then I asked him, but I don't even have a mobile phone.
So these were false allegations?
Yes, and he said, but I am the police officer. I can accuse you of anything and I will get away with it. Who are you? But he didn't know I'm an MP.
He can also shoot you.
He didn't know you were an MP.
He didn't know I was an MP.
And he can also shoot you.
I think if I was the IG...
Let's hear this story. Let's hear this story. Then you can comment on that.
I'll tell him he's faking.
Didn't know that I was an MP because I was driving a small car, and somehow on the Makupa Causeway there was a jam, so I stopped, on the road to allow somebody to pass. So he said I was holding traffic, but I was giving an opportunity for people to pass. But he said he had told me to go, and I was still.
You can't drive over 50.
Yes, so he came and knocked my car. So I opened the window and said, "Why are you knocking my car?" Then when we had that argument, So he called on his talkie and told the inspector that there's a person here who is talking on his mobile phone. That was his causing jam. And I said, man, I don't even have a phone in my car because I left my phone. I'd actually forgotten my phone somewhere. So we had this altercation with this guy, and so they brought in a squad of other police officers to come now, and they were telling me to get out of my car. They drive me to the police station. I told them, I can't allow you to drive my car. If they have a problem, I will drive myself to the police station. So he started telling me, my charges, driving with while talking on phone, and a lot of issues there. I told him, no. So we had an altercation, but I told him I'll go to the police station. So I refused to go to the police station. So this guy was mad and told me what he will do to me. And I told him. Then eventually I told him, but I'm a member of parliament. And he was a bit rude to me even when I introduced myself. So another lady, a police officer, came and said, "Tuachane na hii malumbano. Let me get into your car if you allow me." And we went to the police station. So when I met the inspector there, he said, "You see, Mheshimiwa, if you people had introduced a bill to introduce body cam, I would have been seeing what is happening there and would have known who is right and who is wrong." So it was actually advice from a police officer from Makupa police station. He told me, go to parliament, because he had trained in South Africa. And he said that system of using body cam has actually worked. This police officer would have shot me.
Then the IG would have said.
Then the IG would have told the family they have collected a body.
I can tell you that police officer was in a rage. I don't know what had happened to him. He was in a rage, and he was talking to me and shouting at me, and he said, "Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? I'm the police officer. I am the authority here on this road. Nobody else rules."
That's why they need to transform still from the force
to
a service.
So I agree that we need civility. I agree with
civility.
We need civility among the police force. And the police force, authority, power without control is dangerous. Power without control. And our police officers actually have power and they don't have control.
Thank you.
And their commanding
officers,
officers,
which is what you have been using against your political opponents.
Their commanding officers sometimes are people who are not civil in many ways. That is why I agree with police reforms. But one of the things, you see this guy who was in the officer at Makupa, I think he had a master's degree, So the way he talked to me and the way he handled me,
and was exposed to South Africa,
and he was exposed, and he said
there was a bit of decorum.
Yes, actually, he sat me after we had all this. He sat me and said, "I've always wanted an opportunity to speak to a member of parliament about these issues." Then he told me his story. And you know what story he told me? He said he was driving from Nairobi coming to Mombasa. He go to Voi, and he was driving. He was a civilian. He was driving in his family. He was flagged down by a police officer. And when he was flagged down by the police officer, they roughed him up, and they did not know
he's a police officer. He's one of them.
So eventually, when he produced his ID, that's when he said, Afande, he's a senior guy. But he said, I was harassed by a very junior police officer on the road just because I was in civilian. And they took him round and kept him waiting for, like an hour. They're harassing him. They're looking for a bribe from him, and they said I wasn't going to bribe a fellow police officer. Now, so he had his own experience with police, and then he told me we need, because I cannot even go and say this guy did this and this and this and this. It would be me against him. But if we had evidentiary technology to carry evidence, then we would have. So I think we have a problem with the police, and that is something that we admit.
Right.
The civility needs to be ingrained in them. They need to look at how to ensure the kind of things that Professor, if you're arresting me, I have rights as a person being arrested. And they are constitutional rights. How do you actually approach me from a constitutional position if you are holding a constitutional office? If you have been given responsibility to carry out certain, if you've been given authority by the Constitution to carry out certain mandates. Those mandates come with responsibility. How are you carrying out those responsibilities as a police officer? And these things need to come from the top. the question is, should the IG, police IG, also be the police spokesman? Such that when there are certain issues, he's the person who comes out and speaks. They have governments, they have police spokespeople who know how to put information out there.
You have the first women police spokesperson who is a PhD holder. We've never even had her voice. We've never even seen her face. We've always seen the face of the IG speaking. And when he speaks, we are left with our mouth really wondering, why can't you just use that particular office?
I would insist that the job of addressing the media be left to the people that have been trained to do that, so that they're able to say, this is the truth. Because if I'm a police, if we gave you the job as a police spokesperson, you would not want to you would have dalliance with lies. You'll come out and say, this is the truth. I have responsibility to give out proper information.
And even as we're winding up on that, because this speaks out of turn as it is, we expect written documents. Written speeches, well thought of. That even when you are actually accused that you say this, you can defend yourself with that particular document. Here is my speech. And I think that's office of the police spokesperson that is being held by Dr. Roselia Onyango should be given much premium and an opportunity to address this issue, so that we don't have altercations because of statements that were made by the IG, whom we expect to be well coordinated, to hold that particular office. Even when he speaks with a measure of, a sensitivity.
I agree with you. Sometimes we appoint these police officers because of how good they are in terms of operations. IG Kuma is a nice guy in terms of operations. When it comes to police work, to ensure work is done, I think he's an excellent person. But also, when you are gifted in one area, you may not be gifted in another. And I think his press briefings have not been the best. All of them. So I would advise him that he allows...
They have also been impromptu. And political. I think soon he should run for a political seat.
I would advise him that he'll allow the people given the opportunity and the job to go to the media to do their job. We will not be having this kind of of discussion.
All right, and I hope we're not becoming a country of cams, body cams, because also Murkomen is giving the idea that all these buses and the PSVs should actually be
leveraging on
should actually be having gadgets, should be having cameras. And I was wondering, what is the rhyme or reason of having cameras? If you are in a crash and the camera itself is crashed, how will it be helpful for you?
No, I think they're picking up from the black box on the plane. Even if the plane crashes or whatever, the black box remains.
But this is not the black box.
Has information.
This is not the black box. Let's not stretch it. This is a camera.
But the black box never even burns in case of fire.
It is.
I'm happy that in the course of the show, my good friend has found his Damascus moment. Is from Seoul to because he started by defending the police force. Now he has seen the light, and he's giving us very progressive ideas. I mean, as a progressive Kenyan, I fully support the bill, what you are proposing to bring to the House, because we need more accountability from our police force. When I headed the Ethics and Corruption Commission, we went to London and we visited the Serious Fraud Office. And we then visited the equivalent of our Kenyan traffic. And the roads in London are maintained by money that is generated from traffic fines. And they don't do it manually. There are cameras all over. And we had that debate, and we said, you know what? All this revenue in Kenya goes to the pockets of police officers on our roads. So if we go that route, if you are stopping a vehicle, it has committed a traffic offense, book them, let them go to court, they pay a fine, then we can generate enough revenue to maintain our roads. And if we can have civility within the police force, everybody, if you have that body come with you, I'm sure you will be forced to conduct yourself in a more civilized manner. Dibal, as a leader, I can never condemn the power of the police to effect an arrest on anybody who has broken the law. I can never question that power and authority. Yes. But I must condemn strongly and firmly any excessive use of force by the police, and more so, use of live bullets on unarmed Kenyans. That we must condemn as leaders, so that we don't continue seeing many innocent lives being lost in the hands of the police officers.
Thank you.
And finally, I hope when you talk out there are many people who watch this show.
Yes.
I hope IG Kome has watched this show.
Yes.
And I hope he has taken a moment of reflection
Yes.
on that very careless and reckless statement he made. And I hope at one time he will find a moment to apologize to Kenyans. That was the most unfortunate statement to have ever come from the head of our police service.
In fact, the family is actually calling on IG to apologize.
Yeah, he should. The least he should do is to tender an apology to those families. If we were in the United States,
he will have resigned.
IG will not be in office. I take it to the bank. He will not be in office today. He would have resigned and left office, because that statement qualifies to make him unfit for that office. That should never have come from him, Lebal.
All right. So we wait to see how that bill will steamroll through Parliament.
It will.
Yes.
It will.
And
I think it is.
Thank you.
The only problem with that bill is the expense it may come with, and the many machinations. You see, these cameras also record to a BVR.
Yes.
So we are looking at a situation whereby the cameras are disabled,
Okay.
the BVR is interfered with. So Kenya we need to invest in the morals first.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
We need
That's
the
what I'm saying. We'll be
we need
actually having cameras all over.
Yes.
Even when you come to IBC, I believe now, we'll be saying that from every polling station.
There must be a camera.
Yeah, there has to be, the officers
Yes.
must be on body cams, so that we see if there is any malpractices during the processing of the ballot boxes, of course, counting.
Technology will sort a lot of the issues that our moral compasses have failed.
And it's costing us. You know,
Yes.
our lack of trust is costing this country.
Yes.
Very interesting also,
Yes.
U-turn.
Yes.
I want us just to discuss what is also on the front page of the Daily Nation briefly. Because on May the 14th, we had the president and the government now striking down the subsidy, the fuel subsidy. Now the government is mulling over to returning the fuel subsidy. If you may remember also in Nigeria, the current president, when he was taking office, the first port of call was to try and scrap the fuel subsidy. And what happened in Nigeria? There was a food crisis. He had to call a state of emergency in Nigeria. Why this U-turn? Or maybe should I begin with you on this particular U-turn? So was this an ill-advised decision that was made? Now you have to wipe the egg on your face.
The ban, if you read the statement by the IPRA boss, he's exploring possibility. It's not a statement from government, because fuel subsidy, before they are actually put in place,
it's not a statement from government.
It's from IPRA.
IPRA is government.
IPRA is not government.
IPRA is government, but you see, IPRA does not make law, because any fuel subsidy must come to Parliament. Any subsidy, approval of subsidy, needs to come to Parliament, and probably a CAB memo needs to present it at Cabinet, and Cabinet makes a decision, and this matter therefore comes into Parliament and probably approved or not approved. And what the IPRA boss wrote is a possibility, is a suggestion that is telling oil marketers probably we need to do this so that we can bring the cost of, we can maintain the cost of fuel at a lower level. So for me, this is not yet a government policy. It is not something that has been approved by Cabinet. And I think it's more sensational than it is real.
It's more sensational?
Sensational than it is real. Because EPRA has written his suggestions to oil marketers. Why don't we? I think
but there is a reason why they are writing these suggestions, because they've seen this is causing a lot of hardship to Kenyans.
You know, the price of fuel is determined by many factors. One of them is global prices of fuel. Is a factor. The global prices of fuel. How are they in the? I read that in Tanzania, fuel has gone up by 12 shillings. This is 12 or 27 shillings. We just woke up one day and fuel had gone up by 27 shillings.
Tanzanian shillings, that is
No,
Kenya.
no, Kenyan shillings. It was in Kenyan shillings. The newspaper, I think, wrote Kenyan shillings, 27 shillings. In
The newspaper
Tanzania.
cannot be in Kenyan shillings.
No, the interpretation of the newspaper. It's your
Which
newspaper.
which one was
It's
it?
a newspaper that wrote it's a newspaper that wrote it and said by Kenya shillings 27, equivalent of Kenya shillings 27. And the global prices of fuel actually are going up. So what do we do as a country? We need to start thinking, because if we allow these prices to skyrocket the way they're skyrocketing, especially that they are being fueled by the force of the dollar, by the
Ukraine war,
and all those factors, then as a country, what do we do? And we have economists in this country who say, okay, this intervention might work. This intervention might work. But the question of subsidy or no subsidy is not going to be decided by IPRA, because IPRA does not have mandate to decide on subsidy. They have mandates to look at certain other aspects of fuel and the marketing of fuel, but not subsidy. And therefore, this is a matter that requires more consultation before we reintroduce subsidy. So I would like to tell, it's a good idea, but has it worked before?
But ukiona kuna moshi,
moto hauko mbali.
Moto hauko mbali. Ukiona kuna moshi, moto hauko mbali. Yeah.
But I would like to hear the thoughts of the economists on this,
regarding this fuel subsidy.
We really need.
Is there any learning points if anything is to go by with what we have in Nigeria?
Yes.
With the fuel subsidy and the upshoot of
many oil marketers, but they would love
the food
oil
prices.
Subsidy. They would love oil subsidy because it brings two items. One, they will make money, and it's also an avenue for corruption. And Kenyans get excited when there's opportunities for corruption are opened. And that is what has happened before.
What a sad affair.
Yes.
Let's see from wind up on it.
Yes.
Oil has a spiral effect on basic commodities.
No doubt. No doubt.
It shoots up the cost of living.
Yes.
You affect the poor, the vulnerable,
yes,
at the lower, the so-called hustlers.
Yes.
So it flips the bottom-up approach.
Yes.
You're actually making those at the bottom to suffer more because those up there can afford. So I'm sure that the Wood administration has woken up to reality that the policies they are putting in place is making it very unpopular on the ground. And I've said on this show that nobody owns hustlers. Hustlers voted for UDA, in quotes, because they had hopes that once you get into government, you will fulfill the promises you made.
Yes.
Reducing the cost of unga, making life easier, employing the youths who are unemployed. But you have now realized that you are into the second year of your administration. You have not reduced the cost of living. You have not employed youths. The Mama Mboga and the border was promised to go to government is still languishing there. And you are losing ground. So you have no choice. You have seen what you have just been told, the Nigeria case will soon hit you. So I'm sure, Dibal, that if the current administration wants to try to survive for the next 3 years or so, it must do something. But also even looking at it from the economic perspective. When Uganda was at war, Rwanda was at war, we had a competitive advantage for investors. But you see now all these regions are peaceful countries. So any investor coming to the East African region to invest, we look at the prevailing climate in terms of the taxation regimes in those countries. If you go to Rwanda, the cost of fuel is at 151 shillings. In Kenya, we are at 200. If you go to Tanzania, it's 170, while we are at 200. The income tax is at 27% in Rwanda. We are at 30%. Pay in Kenya, you have taken to 35, while at Rwanda it's 30. So if you sit down, you will realize that you are making Kenya to be a very unattractive destination for investment. So you have to go back as a country and look at how you can leverage and make your country also competitive. Otherwise, you will lose out. Investors will flee to other countries. And this thing you have seen here, you know, the jobs in economies that are growing, it is the private sector that should create employment, not the public sector. So if you create an environment that is chasing away everybody, you will be asked in 2027, where are the jobs you promised the youths? Because they will remain unemployed. So I'm happy that this idea of, I'm sorry, that's what I read in the papers.
Yes.
This idea of using your whip, Honorable Soro, the way he told us, to bribe MPs to pass the finance bill is coming back to bite you. So now take the bill back and now debating it, you putting the interest of the common mwananchi. You know, everybody, even Dibal, I can tell you, everybody has been hit by these unpopular taxation measures. Everybody has been hit. So if you love the people that you govern, the people who elected you into office, you must come up with policies that are sensitive to those people. Otherwise, you will lose that voting bloc.
Thank you. Yeah, but on the other side of the break, music is up. Thank you.
I have not even talked.
I can handle it.
All right. We need to take a short break. When we circle back, of course, we'll continue with that discussion. And also, we remember today is the big day in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, for that matter, where we'll be having the 10th Devolution Conference. We shall be looking at that. There is a new bill on the floor of the Senate right now, the Constitution Amendment Bill 2023, where we have Raphael Chimera seeking to actually make sure that we bar governors who've run for office, if they go the whole gamut, that is 10 years or 5 years, to have a rerun so that there can be accountability, check for the 5 good years. A good case in point is what is happening with Uasin Gishu County with the scholarship scandal, where the former governor is the Senate. And it's a bit of a pickle on how also we can actually try and handle the whole scenario when he's the one who's overseeing the affairs of the counties that he was a governor. We take a short break, we circle back with more. Don't go away.